It was such a pleasure to be asked to be a judge this year. Its landscape painting remains such an important part of Australian culture, an important part of how we actually consider ourselves in this place. For Aboriginal people, of course, landscape is essential to a sense of self, and it's actually indistinguishable from a sense of self. Living on country, land and self merge into one. For non-Aboriginal Australians, how we've actually discovered our place in this country has often been through looking at the land, being at the land, with all its pleasures and all its challenges. Particularly in the 19th century, when Australia started to get a sense of itself as a nation separate from England, and when all the colonies began to think about merging prior to federation, landscape and landscape painting was essential to how we established a separate identity from the many places non-Aboriginal Australians had come from before. And I think that continues into our present moment. Our land here is distinctive, it is challenging at times, it's immensely rewarding. We all live within it, even when we live within the most urban parts of Australia. We're surrounded by our environment. And it's not just the physical environment, it's not just the trees, the rocks, the earth, the weather conditions, etc. It's actually the cultural history which is accumulated with that land and our sense of experiencing that land as well. Artists have looked at that for a very long time in Australia, for around 60,000 years, of course. And also artists now, of course, are looking at how artists have looked at the landscape in the past. So art now is not just about recalling the landscape or a sense of it or the place of it. It's also about looking at how artists have looked at it in the past and approaching it from quite a conceptual way and looking at previous practices. You can see all of that in this exhibition, and I have to say it was quite overwhelming after I said yes, and I thought, what a terrific idea. I'll get to see artists I don't know, artists I do know, get involved in this terrific prize. But there were actually 1,200 entries. That is around 400 more than the Archibald Prize gets each year. So just to give you a sense of how well regarded this is, it's also around 450 more than the Wynne Landscape Prize gets. So those statistics were quite amazing and quite overwhelming for us judges at the time with our sort of spreadsheets and thumbnails. But Craig and Wendy and I sort of went through it, we did, and we chose the final 54 which were hung today. So for everyone who's actually been selected and hung, you have to think that's actually really special because there are around 1,150 people and works who weren't selected and hung. So it's very special to be here, and I want to thank all the artists who were selected and all the artists who entered for participating in this prize. So Craig and Wendy and I selected down from that first 1,200 to the 54 which are hung, because Wendy then promptly took herself off to Uzbekistan. I mean, I would have taken a doctor's note. It was down to Craig and Craig and I went through the works yesterday. We spent some hours here in the exhibition. And it was a very rewarding process. I very much enjoyed working with Craig. I hope the experience was good for him as well. We had a really great dialogue, looking at the works, taking our time, talking about them. And with any exhibition like this, there's a great deal of diversity. So actually deciding what criteria we were actually approaching, what was really working for us. But since the two key criteria of judging are, one, there's a reference to Australian landscape, and two, the judges like it, we can't really be wrong. So that's the spirit in which we're awarding the prizes. So there are actually 6 awards in total, and I'll run through them. So, and these will end with the Paddington Art Prize winner, but there's other wonderful awards on the way. So the UNSW Art and Design Print Prize, which is working with their master printers and making a unique limited edition print, goes to Joe Bettini for a Tondo groundwater gum hanging behind me here. Joe, are you here? If you are here, come forward. We don't have a giant cheque, but we do have an envelope. Thank you. Congratulations. Beautiful work. Now, the Safala Cottage Residency, which is for another terrific painting, is for an artist who isn't here tonight, so won't be able to step forward, but it's for Watt for Silver Birch 5. Please join me in congratulating Watt. Now, the Young Artist Prize, which is an innovation for this year, and this is actually the second highest amount of money in an award. It's a cheque for $5,000. Goes to an artist who Craig and I were impressed with their original way of considering the components of the landscape this artist was depicting, how this artist reduced those components to quite a simplified language, but kept an incredibly animated surface and an animated content in that work. So the Young Artist Prize goes to the painting A Platform for Optimal Viewing by Genevieve Felix Reynolds. Genevieve. Congratulations. Yeah, really stunning work. And here? Chris has the all-important check. So for the Paddington Art Prize, in addition to the winner, which I will get to last, there is a highly commended and an honourable mention. So the highly commended, which has a gift certificate of $1,000 from the Sydney Arts Store to spend on whatever materials you want to use, goes to the seductive ribbons of paint, which so effectively evoke the rainforests of Dorrigo. So congratulations to Bellum Lett, and please come forward for your certificate. Here's the way. You do it as well. Fantastic. Look at this. Multitasking, well done. Right, okay, now we're up to our honourable mention, which is a $2,000 cheque. It's a work whose vigorous energy, tactile paint, and overall strength continue to distract us throughout our judging process. It's a work which was kind of over our shoulder at some stages, right in front of us at others, and it really stayed with us. And as always with prizes, you know, you've got to do a lot of thinking about what gets there in the end, and this got to our honourable mention category. We're very, very pleased with it. It's a very strong work, and it's Landscape Spring Sprung by Paul Ryan. Congratulations, Paul. So...
Maybe sound like Donald Trump there,
yeah.
Lurking there behind you.
The painting, not you.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers. Right, we're down to the winner. And for 2016, this goes to a painting of a visionary image of possible futures enabled by our current moment. It is an image which had a very strong, I think, very strong sense of social concern within it, not necessarily immediately visible when you thought about what you're actually seeing in front of you. That came out. It's a work which I think is very accomplished in how it's painted as well. Of course, it actually moves through areas of detail into areas of space and broadness and areas of sharp focus and intensity. It's an image of water pouring into the House of Representatives at Parliament House in Canberra as it becomes a hallucinatory lake complete with wounded hippo, while a dry desert landscape appears on the left. It belongs to a recent series by the artist entitled Endangered, and I think that says it all. Unfortunately, the artist isn't here tonight. They're actually in Europe, but the work, of course, is Girt by Sea by Rodney Popel, this year's winner.